All right, we should be live now. This is Freelance Duck Hunting live stream, something we've been doing quite a bit lately. And we've been doing it every Thursday at 7 o'clock. I think we'll probably do it again next Thursday, but I'm not fully committing to it. If you want to get updates as to when these are going to be, go to Facebook and find us at Freelance Duck Hunting, also Instagram, Freelance Duck Hunting. And we do have Twitter, although I have never actually posted from it. That's also Freelance Duck Hunting. So if I see some people starting to follow us on Twitter, I'll make sure that I'll post from there as well, so you can get updates as to what's going on and when we're going to be doing these live streams. But I've had a live stream with Dan and with Drake from Drake Valley Outdoors, and so we needed to bring in my dad here, Fumblemits, and so we can talk and just, I don't know how we'll hang out, half hour, we'll just see how it goes. We'll answer as many questions as we can and just kind of hang out and talk. So we'll go ahead and look through the questions. If you can tell that I kind of missed yours, I don't want to answer the exact same questions every single week. So I'll either hit on it briefly or I might skip over it. So I guess we can go ahead and get going. We'll just kind of chat and talk, and as some questions start, we'll start answering. So one thing that I wanted to talk about was our waterfowl season and kind of recap how it's gone. I know we had a fantastic teal season. We shot a bunch of teal in September and in October, but once November hit and once our section of the state opened up, we struggled quite a bit to shoot ducks again this year. So that's been something and a topic that we've been discussing and talking about quite a bit. So feel free to ask questions about that. There's a video coming out tomorrow morning where Golden Boy and I go on another hunt, so that'll be out in the morning. So we have some questions starting to come in, and we'll go ahead and start hitting those questions off. So what decoys do we use? You know more of what the decoy brands that we use than I do.
Over the years, I tend to look for the best sale and buy them. I started out with Flambeau. I bought a dozen Super Mags from G&H when Elliot was just getting started for him, not knowing how heavy they are. But I just recently sold off most of those because we don't use them much, but they're actually have been really good decoys for me. But we have also used Greenhead gear when they came out with the removable keel. We started using some of those. And and then this last year, I can't remember the brand. I bought two brands.
What's your favorite brand, though? What do you like the best? We don't need to tell them every single thing.
The best luck I've had is with G&H decoys. Yeah. I've got a dozen gadwalls that they're just kind of a brown duck, but I mean, they have been perfect all the years that I've had them. And those Super Mags I bought way back when. Some of the heads broke on them, but the paint job really has stayed the same.
So Cole Park,
most everything else that we've bought, the way we treat decoys, the paint gets chipped off and everything.
So Cole Parkinson wants to know, what is your favorite duck? Do you have a type of duck that's your favorite?
Boy, I guess I hadn't really thought a lot about that. I love green wings. The little green wing drakes are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Of course, wood ducks, I don't get a chance to shoot those very often. Pintails are kind of a premium duck for us because, I mean, I love shooting mallards, don't get me wrong, but there's millions and millions of mallards, and that's what we shoot. When you can decoy a drake pintail right into your decoys, that's really special.
Yeah, I think if I could shoot my dream limit, you're talking 5 mallard drakes and a pintail drake.
I had one hunt in December years and years ago where I shot 5 drakes, a pintail drake, and 2 Canada geese, all of them landing in my decoys.
Yeah, that's a good day. And and we would say canvasback drakes too. We just don't hardly ever see it. I mean, we go years without seeing any canvasback.
Yeah, I broke the law one day shooting a canvasback drake by accident.
What?
That's a story in itself.
Was that down the river?
No, that was at the marsh we hunt.
Okay.
and I had one more. Well, I was filled up with my special oddball uh, ducks,
It's the computer.
and
Don't send them.
this flock circled around me, and as he circled around, I saw one dark-headed drake right out in the front, and he flew into the sun. As he came out, I popped him, and I wanted to pick him up, or the dog picked him up, and it was a canvas bantam drake, and I didn't want to waste him, even though it was illegal. And so it was like Friday, and I know this game manager really well, and I thought, well, he'll never be checking me on Friday. And when I got back to the boat ramp, guess what? There he was. And the story gets a whole lot more involved. I don't want to spend the whole time telling that story, but it was illegal, and I did have to do some work
to make a long story short, the game warden, who we know, didn't make him pay a ticket. He stuck him on, they've got a handicap blind for people, and he wanted it grassed up. So he stuck him on grassing up a handicap blind, which took you, how many hours do you think it took you to do that?
Oh, man, I tell you, my wife helped me, a friend helped me.
Let's just say by the time he was done grassing that up, he really wished he just paid the fine.
I had my wife said, why didn't you just tell him to give you a fine?
So, all right. Let's move on here. When is the next video coming out? Connor Johnson says tomorrow morning. Golden Boy and I went on a hunt, and the video's all done and ready. I posted the one yesterday and then the live feed today. So next video is tomorrow, and then we're hunting tomorrow too. So that video will probably come out Saturday or Sunday. So we've got quite a few coming out here right in a row. Do you repaint your decoys and repair them? GT Outdoor says, which is actually Clayton. Talk briefly, let's not give too much detail, about the specialized paint that you purchased a couple years back.
What is that? Is that called U-Vision? I think it's a kind of paint that reflects ultraviolet light, which duck's feathers apparently reflect ultraviolet light. And so when a duck sees another duck, it's seeing that. And if you don't use this U-Vision paint, the colors aren't exactly the same in a duck's viewpoint. Mm-hmm. So you should use this.
The reflection of the light just looks different.
Yeah, it looks, apparently.
It's what they say.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Either it's true or they're just trying to make money on guys who believe that.
Like me. So I painted up a bunch of them one year.
Hold on. So the theory is that normal paints reflect light different than feathers do.
Yeah.
So you get a specialized paint that's supposed to reflect the light.
That's it.
At the same way that feathers do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had a lot of fun repainting these decoys, but and of course I had a mixture of those and others. So I don't know, but I couldn't tell it helped me at all. But
I always thought they looked a little weird.
Well,
I think it was just your painting skills.
Yeah, that was probably it. All right. I really worked hard on those things. But by the next year, it seemed like they kind of lost their luster. And
So he did play around with repainting decoys for a while.
I may go back to it too.
But we haven't done it for a while. And I mean, you can get
basically I'm retired and lazy.
Yeah, and I messed around with flocking decoys for a while.
Yeah.
So we have done a little bit of that. All right, next question. Carter Weems says, any tips for hunting rivers? My dog just passed, so I have to retrieve with waders. I know what my tip for him would be. What would yours be?
His dog just passed. And what?
And tips for hunting the river. His dog just passed.
Something about his waders.
Because he's just going to have to retrieve the ducks. With
boy. It depends on how strong the current is. Yeah. Even with my dog, when the current is really strong, I like to set my decoys so I'm pointing upstream, and hopefully I shoot them upstream. So neither I nor the dog have to chase after him so far. But if you don't have a dog and you're hunting the river and that river is not wadable,
don't hunt it.
You better have a boat.
Yeah.
You better have a canoe or a kayak or something. Like we had Golden Boy here with us a hunt ago, and it got it got so tough on the dog that I had Golden Boy retrieve 1 or 2 ducks with his
Yeah.
with his.
This is totally on a side note, but I was talking to Beth today about this, and I cannot wait to do this on video. Because, you know, Golden Boy has this little stash. Have you seen his little mustache?
I guess I haven't noticed.
Yeah, he's got a little stash. And so I want to put the camera right on him and say, there's Golden Boy with his little golden stash. He's got this little stash. Anyway, side note, it's going to be funny.
If it's golden enough, I must have missed it.
It's going to be funny to me.
Yeah.
My jokes are always directed towards one person to make myself laugh.
Right. Yeah. So you
and I am really funny to myself.
So, yeah. So you're really funny
to myself.
I think you got that from your mother. She tells her own jokes and then she laughs like crazy. And it's like, don't you think that's fun, Dad? Funny? Well, it's kind of amusing.
Not near as funny as you think.
No, I don't. No leg.
Hey, if
slapping.
I can make myself laugh, it's a good joke.
No leg slapping or anything like that.
So I do with Carter. I want to get back to the river thing a little bit more because this is kind of a serious question. Because I spent probably 4 years hunting the Kansas River alone by myself. Now I did have a dog, but I was by myself, and at the time I couldn't hunt the side that it was accessible by the car. I could only hunt the other side. So I would get there in the dark and cross the river by myself with just me and my dog, a pack of decoys and all that stuff. And looking back on it, it was
you had our canoe at the time,
but I wasn't using it.
Oh,
I was crossing it by myself. And so here's what I did. You and I actually, when you found I was going to be hunting the river, we went out there when warmer weather and we walked all over the section that we hunted.
Yeah.
And we paid attention to the depth of the river. Because if you go to USGS water data, you can, any river pretty much you can tell how high it is, how high is it normally, and so you can monitor.
Right, there's a website.
Just search USGS real-time water data.
Right, and that's going to give you a number which doesn't tell you how deep the river is. But if it's 5 today and 10 tomorrow, you know it's 5 foot higher than it was.
And so I found a spot that I felt pretty comfortable crossing. And I crossed that same spot every single time without deviating.
Yeah.
But another thing about the river is if it can develop, it can change. The sand can roll, holes can develop. So when you're on the river, my rule is that even if I've been in a spot 50 times, I always assume that the next step could be a hole.
Exactly, which means you
because it could be.
You need a walking stick when you're exploring the river because you need to be touching ahead of you.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that every time you step your foot in it, but if you're exploring the river to find out how deep it is, it always helps to be able to push ahead because it could be 2 inches and turn to 10 feet in a heartbeat.
I got into a situation, he's actually told the story, but I wasn't able to post it, where I got into a bad situation on the river and he was with me. I tried to cross about a waist deep channel with too much stuff in the sled. The sled fell over, I fell over, and I was basically using my decoy bag as like a flotation device and was kick paddling down the river chasing gear. And it was probably, I mean, it was cold. It was 25. Cold, yeah. So
there wasn't ice on the water, but it was cold.
We recovered most of our stuff, but rivers can be dangerous.
We lost a layout blind, and we lost.
We lost $400 or $500.
We lost a gun.
Yeah, we lost $400 or $500 worth of gear.
One of our Browning BPS.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. Let's see. J.R. Lloyd, are you getting new birds? We've got a ton of birds around right now. They're just going to fluctuate with the different fronts. So south wind, we might get some more push up. I'm assuming right now anything here is not going to go south unless we have lots of snow. These birds we have now, I consider them to be cold weather mallards. And so your north wind cold is just not going to push them out.
We've got hooded mergansers and American common mergansers, and we've got mallards.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of birds. We've got a bunch of birds, bunch of geese.
Yeah, geese, a lot of geese. But you know that bunch of birds. If you can find the place where they are, there's a bunch of birds. If you can't,
we've got several places that we normally hunt that have no birds, and then you'll see on the video tomorrow morning, we found a place with a marsh with thousands of birds. So guns that we shoot, Alexander Clark, what guns do we shoot? I shoot the Beretta Outlander A300, which is an awesome gun, but it's got one really bad flaw. If it gets moisture on a cold day where it's under freezing, that action will lock up like that. And Golden Boy, he's just golden. Mine locked up, and of course he had a little thing of gun oil, and we squirted it right in there. Boom, took care of the problem.
Yeah.
And what do you shoot?
what I'm shooting now is a Benelli Black Eagle 2, and it was given to me as a present by my employer on my 30th employment anniversary, and he engraved it and everything. And it's light. I really like that gun. The first year I had it, I shot a triple on Teal, and they were all within 20 yards. I mean, it was fast. I haven't done it since. Don't think I'm shooting doubles and triples all the time, because I'm not, but I did that. I did that first year. In fact, that one hunt I shot a triple with 3 shots, and I shot a triple with 2 shots.
Yeah, it's a sweet gun.
Yeah.
It's very. I've noticed when I shoot your Benelli, I can't even put it into words, but it's got a smoother feel when you pull the trigger.
Okay.
I don't know if there's less recoil or what it is, but when you pull the trigger on that gun, it's just like cutting through butter.
That stock, you notice those little.
That must be it.
It absorbs some of the.
It must be a recoil thing.
Recoil,
because it feels so smooth.
And I love that gun, but I have had trouble with the paint on it. It needs to be recoated. I've worn a lot of paint off, and it started coming off.
It looks rough
pretty soon.
I wouldn't fix it though. That's when a gun looks all rough and worn like that. That's character.
Yeah, but it's starting to rust a little bit.
Well, for as long as you've had it.
Yeah.
Huntman01. I just bought new waders. Any tips for making them last longer? Don't use them.
That's the number one thing.
Because I can't get through a single season without. I cannot get through one single season without poking holes.
All right, I have a really good piece of advice, which I follow somewhat, and to my detriment. The thing that I've had the most trouble with, I don't poke holes in those neoprene waders that have the Cordura nylon lining on them on the outside. I don't poke holes in them. I used to do on my old just pure neoprenes, but I get seepages through the seams.
Yeah, the seams are the big problem.
If you'll take some glue and treat as they stitch the seams on those boots, there are loose ends of threads every now and then. Treat those loose ends, at least those loose ends.
I would do the entire seams. I'm too lazy to do it.
But the whole seams,
yeah.
They say they recommend doing the whole seam, but at least the loose ends.
You can get kind of some aqua seal kind of stuff. If you just go to a Tractor Supply store. In fact, I've got a video about repairing waders where I show this gunk I'm using, and I got it from a Tractor Supply store, and that would not be a bad idea. Right when you get waders, just go over your seams. Almost every single hole that I've ever had in waders, or at least the last 3 or 4, is seam problems.
Yeah, mine too, and mine start to unravel.
And I did a video about Rogers Sporting Goods. I don't know if you guys have seen. I talked about it last week. A lot of these questions, if you guys go and just look through my playlist on discussions, because I actually have them organized in a way that you'll find what you're looking for. But at Rogers, I had a pair of waders of theirs, and the seams leaked, and they returned them. And I've been on 20 hunts this year, and the seams are leaking again. And I just took those back yesterday, and they gave me a new pair. So this is my 3rd pair of Rogers Tough Man series, and the first 2 pairs have had leaky seams within a year. So they've replaced both of those. But the seams,
boy, they should last 3 years, maybe.
Yeah. And we hunt hard, and
I mean
I think we're a little rougher on our stuff than most people.
Before I retired, I was not working full time, but I was working a lot, but I was hunting about 35 times a year. Now I'm down to about 25, I think, in my retirement. But and when you're hiking in and stepping on sticks and stuff, there's all kinds of stuff can happen.
And up here, we've got a lot of those trees. What are those trees with those massive thorns on them?
Honey locust.
Honey locust.
The black locust.
I mean, those are. I guarantee someone's died running into those at some point. Do you think if you ran one of those things through your neck?
I think.
That would make a good episode if you ran one through your neck.
I wish I had.
He fumbled to his death.
Yeah. Listen,
you literally fumble and stumble and right into those locusts.
Well, listen,
just impale yourself.
When I'm out in the woods with my dog, I try to keep them away from those things, because my last dog was Ebony, and she was not any wilder and crazier than any other labs that I had, although they were all been wild and crazy. And she was always hurting herself. Like, she ate a full box of rat poison one time. Ugh. And I just caught her licking up the last kernel before. So I took her to the vet, and he got her okay. gave her a pneumatic to throw it all up. But she was always stepping on those thorns, and they would go up in her pad and snap off, and then the vet couldn't get in there and get them.
Yeah.
And there was one time she got a thorn about this long in her pad, and he couldn't get it, and he didn't want to be digging around on that pad. And for 6 months, she limped whenever she ran. And in 6 months, I reached down there on her leg, and I could feel it had worked its way all the way up to the dew claw. And he went in there and took a little slice and popped it out of there.
She also got into porcupine, didn't she?
Yeah, she got slapped with a porcupine.
And we don't have porcupine here. Was that up in Nebraska?
Yeah, that was Nebraska.
We in the past have gone up to north central Nebraska, which is a fantastic place. They have sandhills up there, up around Valentine, Nebraska. And we've done a little bit of waterfowl hunting up there, but they've got prairie chickens, sharp-tailed grouse.
Yeah.
The closest place there that has northern pike.
Bass and pike.
It's an amazing place.
Yeah.
We should think about going back up there.
I love that place.
Maybe we should do a hunt trip there sometime.
I would love that.
But I would want to hunt some of those shallow pools. I didn't like when you guys were hunting. You guys were just hunting a regular pond. It didn't feel like anything unusual. When you were waterfowling.
Yeah, well,
if I go up there, I want those like potholes.
Yeah, it's like Merritt Reservoir, and there are little bays and little shallow bays and stuff. And we were hunting prairie chickens or sharp-tailed grouse, and we looked down on that pond, on that lake, and there's ducks down there. Well, forget the prairie chickens. So we went down there and built a little blind and did some shooting. And then for a couple of years, we would go up there, and the first thing in the morning, we would hunt ducks, come back for lunch, and then we would hunt
we better kick through some of these questions because
we're getting kind of hung up here.
I do want to give a shout out. I see that Drake Valley Outdoors is here, and you see the little wrench by his name. That's because he's actually a moderator, and he's an FDH member over at Patreon. He's amazing. Have you started watching his videos yet?
I have, yeah. But I wondered what that wrench was.
Yeah, he's a moderator.
Thought maybe you were working on him.
So Drake's going to keep an eye on these guys, and if anyone starts talking trash on this fella, Drake's.
Yeah,
he's gonna take care of it.
Absolutely, that's his job.
He's a great guy. I think that sometime next year maybe we should hunt with him. I want to get some tips from. He does the best job of videoing with GoPros. The setup he has. I mean, it's clear. And Golden Boy has a GoPro, so I want to do a special either hunt with him, or I want to see what he's doing because he's doing a great job.
Our little GoPro type thing doesn't work with.
Well, but I think the problem is it's not a GoPro.
Well, that's why you need to get Golden Boy.
I know. I've already talked to him about
Stick it on.
So anyway,
he has to learn. When you're putting those on your barrel, you have to learn how to use them, because if you just point and shoot and then you're waving your gun around.
But he's putting his on some kind of tripod or stand or something.
Oh,
and he's leaving it fixed. So, but anyway, I've got some questions about that. And Drake's got a video coming out. I was hoping it was going to come out today. I've been waiting for it all day. So Drake, let us know when that's coming out, and you guys got to make sure and go to Drake Valley Outdoors and check out his videos, and specifically the ice. Did you see the ice hole video they shot? The video they shot ducks over ice.
Yes, I did.
It was awesome.
Yeah, and they were breaking ice with their gun butt.
Yeah. You see when he crawled up on the lip of the ice?
Yeah.
I was so hoping that was going to break through and he wasn't going to die, but it would have been really funny if it broke through.
I had a dog one time. My first dog could crawl up on the ice in water that was over her head. She could crawl up on the ice and go running.
Wouldn't dew claws be good for that?
No.
Why not? They're right there.
Yeah, but I don't think they have any.
No, it's like, they've got, anyway, let's move on.
She didn't have them. She could hook it with her rear claw and pull herself up.
I've never had a dog that can get up on ice. Whenever my dogs, they just sit in their ice like, either you get me out or I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I'm going to stand here and die.
Ebony would break a lot of ice. Man, she'd break ice.
But Duchess could crawl it. That's an unusual dog that can crawl ice.
Yeah.
All right, so status of the sunken boat, Ross. Man, this is a hot topic or touchy topic with me because someone is being way too passive about this situation, and we are getting the absolute runaround about the sunken boat. And I'm trying to get.
I think you're talking about me.
Yeah. So boat.
There are several people involved in this, and if one guy in the chain goofs up, then you don't scream at one of the other guys in the chain.
Yeah, you do.
And when both of them are goofing up, taking turns goofing up, then you've really got a problem. Actually, there was about 4 or 5 different entities in this unit. But the bottom line is that I took the boat to them a couple days ago, and they have the motor mounted on the boat now. And now they've discovered that the fuel pump is frozen up, and some of the wires are fused.
And they don't have the right gear and blah, 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 blah. They've had it for how many weeks now?
Well, the first problem was the insurance company. And that took forever. You had to get estimates and everything, and then you had to get the insurance company to send it to another guy.
The point is they haven't got it done. And here we are going into January.
Without a boat.
Without a boat.
See, one reason why I can use as an excuse for not shooting as many ducks as I'd like to have is I had no boat. And there's a place or two that was pretty nice for us last year. And that was a down year, but it was a pretty nice place. And I'm too old to haul all that equipment back in there.
My sister's in the fort. She says ducks' lives matter.
Ducks' lives matter too.
That's Angie.
Yeah. Well,
so my sister cannot stand the thought of anything dying, but she sure does like to eat them.
Boy, you cook them.
She's a really attractive girl. I don't mean to say that she's like, overeats her. She's a very, very beautiful girl, but she's a meat eater. She's a carnivore.
Yeah, boy, don't kill them, but boy, she'll help you eat them right now.
Now, do ducks have gluten? That's just a little poke. Anyway.
Yeah, no, they don't. I wish
ducks are gluten free.
Yeah, they are.
Okay. Connor Johnson wants to know, where's the ice line at right now? Well, wherever it is, it's north of us.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Actually, the ice line is pretty close. Right. We're right at the ice line.
Yeah.
Because we still have some marshes and lakes that have ice on them, and then you go an hour south, and there's none.
If you go down to some of these little feeder streams into lakes, where the water's backed up in them, those are still frozen.
There's still some ice on ponds. I saw some today.
Not much.
That's what I'm saying. The line's right here because he's 45 minutes south of me.
Now the marshes have opened up because the mud absorbs the heat.
But not all of them. Not the ones that Charlie was at today. He was breaking ice.
Well,
it was thin, but he was still breaking ice.
Yeah. The more vegetation you have, the slower it is to.
So we're pretty close to the ice line. I'd say Nebraska-Kansas border is probably a good place to call.
Yeah.
Up in Nebraska is the ice line.
It's actually a dangerous time for your dog because your dog could break through ice at this point in time pretty easy.
Yeah. Todd Larson, do you target divers? We love shooting divers, but if we thought we could hunt some of the main lakes and shoot redheads, scaup, I would love to target them.
If they fly into my decoys, you bet.
Yeah.
But we don't have, I had a dozen redheads and I sold them.
Mm-hmm.
But we get a few in our decoys, and
yeah, we love shooting them. We love shooting redheads. We love shooting scaup. We love shooting ringnecks. Obviously, we love shooting canvasback, but we shoot more redheads than anything else.
I got a question for you. How many of you, seeing ducks at a distance, know the difference between a bufflehead and a teal on the wing at 100 yards?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the difference?
Their feet set back farther.
Yeah. Anything else?
I haven't seen enough buffleheads. They probably don't dart around as much as teal.
That's exactly right. They don't dart
around. But you get a diver, you see the feet set back a little bit farther. Yeah. There's something different about their wing beat. I don't know whether it's a little bit quicker, but there's some kind of, I'll see a wing beat and say that's not a teal. There's something different about the wing beat.
There is.
I think it's a little quicker. The wings are set back a little bit farther.
Yeah, it took me a long time to be able to recognize a diver in the air from a distance. But their wing beats are different.
Yeah.
And they don't dart around as much. And it seems like they fly closer together. And they just a straight line. And they often tend to fly lower too. Like a mallard gets up and he gains altitude, whereas a diver, of course, you know how they take off. But if you see them flying just a few feet off the water, it's probably a diver of some kind.
Yep. Carter Weems is hunting the South Platte in Colorado. For some reason, hunting on the plains of Colorado really seems desirable.
Is that one open?
Huh?
Is South Platte, is the Platte River open, I wonder?
Or iced, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Carter, I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Feel free to email us at freelanceduckhunting.com. I would love to talk with you about river hunting in Colorado.
With Ebony, I did hunt tests with her with Hunting Retriever Club. And she was a hunting retriever champion, certified. And there are 3 or 4 clubs that run their tests up there on the Platte River or tributaries of the Platte River. And that is really a neat place. I've been up there to run the dogs, and it looks like a really fun place to hunt.
Yeah, I mean that would be a place that we could talk about even taking our hunt trip to. If it was really beautiful, I would be willing to do that.
Yeah.
So email us. We do a hunt trip once a year, about a 3 or 4 day trip, and we go to South Dakota or Central Kansas. It might be fun to expand and do some different things. Duck Hunter Extreme, what decoy setup do you use? Go to Freelance Discussions. I've got a whole video on that, and take a look at it there. I don't want to go through all that right here. Did you train Izzy yourself, or does someone else train her? I also saw someone did you force fetch Izzy? I used a book, and I don't know if you referred me to the Water Dog book. There's a book called Water Dog.
I probably did.
He had trained.
I don't have it, but
he had trained 2 dogs before I had one. I didn't really train my first dog.
Right.
She just kind of she had so much adrenaline and so much.
Yeah.
She was awesome at what she did, but I didn't really train.
You need to tie about a 50-pound anchor to that.
But Izzy, I went through the book Water Dog page by page, and I was very intentional about what I was doing. And so I trained her completely by myself, and I did take her through force fetch.
I think I helped you with taught you on the force fetch. I didn't do it.
Izzy passed, as far as Water Dog goes, through force fetch from the beginning clear to the very end to where they graduate out. And I mean, she graduated force fetch she went through it really quickly. But with Izzy loves to retrieve, but she doesn't really have any carnivore type of predator instincts other than squirrels.
Yeah.
And so she does things in training. Don't always
squirrels on my deck, man. She goes for
them.
She
hates them. But things with Izzy in the yard don't always transfer. And so I did all the force fetch training in the yard, which might have been part of the problem. So if we get in, especially in cold weather, it shows up. She'll bring the duck back to the shoreline, and she'll drop it and leave it there and come over. She doesn't do it during warm weather. But when the ice comes, she doesn't. I've not been able to break her that. But she did. She passed force fetch training with flying colors. I didn't have any problem with her at all on that. I was really impressed with her.
I had Duchess force fetch trained by a professional trainer because I had no confidence in myself to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I took Ebony to a professional trainer to force fetch her, which was the main reason I took him. And I left her for 2 months, which cost a bundle of bucks. And he called me about a week or two before the end of the 2 months and said he was giving up on her with force fetch. No matter how hard he tortured her, she just screamed and cried and thrashed.
Which dog was that?
Ebony.
Okay.
And
that was his second dog.
Yeah. So I brought her home, and I changed all the terminology, and I started way back. I mean, it was up to me, and I got an amateur that kind of helped me. And, I went to him like once a week for a new lesson, and then I took her home and worked with her, and I got her force fetch trained, but I took her real slow, and then I force fetched Candy. Candy wasn't difficult to force fetch.
Yeah.
Candy's difficulty was she turned out to be gun shy.
Candy was horribly gun shy, and so he's actually an excellent dog trainer. But I mean, he's trained dogs to the point where he's taken them to field trial competitions and passed them. Not at the highest grand champion level.
No.
But, I mean, you've got to really know what you're doing to get to I mean, Ebony would do all sorts of blind retrieves. And
yeah.
I mean, she was awesome.
Was a marking.
She was great.
She was a marking.
When he puts his mind to it, he really is an excellent retriever.
Trouble
trainer.
is, in my old age, I've lost my mind.
Well, the thing with Candy is that Candy was so gun shy that 100% really of your effort went into just getting her to the point where she could hunt.
Yeah, I was afraid I didn't have a dog.
I mean, it was a miracle that dog even hunts, and now she's just crazy to retrieve. But
yeah, boy,
her gun shyness was, I mean, one little sound.
If it thunders, she runs under the bed.
Still does.
Yeah,
really.
But a gunshot, man, she's ready to go.
Colton Baker, can you teach a 4-year-old lab to be a good duck dog? I'd say if they love to retrieve, yes, right?
I think so.
If they love to retrieve,
yeah, they've got to want to retrieve.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I feel like a dog, when you train them, they know they're working. Yeah. So they can have bad habits elsewhere, and sometimes those bad habits will seep in, but they really can divide a line between. Like, I used to be really paranoid, like, no one play tug with dog, no one do this, but then I realized, well, when Izzy's with me and we're working, she knows the difference between work mode and goof around about it.
That may be true. I don't know. I've always been afraid to cross over that line.
I mean, it bleeds together, but they still, it's just like the whole fun bumper thing where we'll have our dogs retrieve and run about 5 or 6 retrieves, and you say the word fun bumper and they go into a whole different gear.
Oh,
they know the difference between different
Yeah.
scenarios.
Yeah,
They're
boy.
smart enough to know
Say
that.
fun bumper to Candy, she'll beat the, you'll hit her in the butt with the retrieval dummy because she's already there. Yeah, I think it can. The key thing to training is it may be work, but it should only be a short period of time. You may think of it as work, but you need to make the dog think of it as fun.
Red Roof Retriever, I see a comment that you made about force fetching, and I would actually love to have a conversation with you in private about force fetch, because Izzy went all the way through the force fetch training, and when it gets cold, she still won't bring it to hand, and she's 9 to the point where I just don't even fight with her about it. But I would love to. I know he's big into retrieve. He's got a lot of retrieving videos.
Who's this?
Red Roof Retriever.
Oh yeah.
And so I think you might subscribe to his channel. He had a couple anyway.
I recognize
him.
I know who he is. Yeah.
And so anyway, but he's serious about his training. He's got quite a few training videos and stuff that are kind of. So anyway, I would love to have a conversation with you, Freelance Duck Hunting, at gmail.com, just about force stretch training and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I could use some advice on Candy's braking.
Yeah, yeah. And FF Outdoors, do you have any ducks mounted? You go ahead and take this one.
Yeah. Back when my wife was selling real estate, I had a little more money, and I would abscond with some of hers. And so I've got a golden eye, a redhead, a mallard drake. I've got a sharp-tailed grouse, and I've got a prairie chicken.
So we went through a phase where we were wanting to mount birds, and then we kind of passed through it, and we don't even have a desire.
Yeah.
They don't hold very well. After about 5 years, they just kind of look nasty.
Well, I tell you what, I had one guy that mounted some of mine, and he is really good with like predators because he's a predator hunter.
Ducks.
Oh man, Mike, you know how beautiful a golden eye is. He stretched that neck out about a mile. It looks horrible.
Because different types of ducks, I bet you that was a pintail neck insert. I watched a show on it, and when they're mounting birds, they have different length necks for different species of birds.
Yeah.
So he used like a pintail neck for a golden eye, and so this golden eye.
Yeah, and the redhead
its neck is like that long. I remember when that came in, I was like,
I've never seen a golden eye look like that.
I know, I was like, I must not notice someone there flying with a neck like that.
Yeah, that was terrible.
So we don't really look to mount things anymore.
No.
I've got a big goose. I've got a ringnecks. Used to be my favorite duck in the whole world.
You know, one thing is you got to have a place to hang them.
Yeah.
And if your wife doesn't want them on your front room wall, it might create a problem.
Yeah, but I had an idea.
Hang them in your garage or in your basement.
What I would love to do is like you take this big wall and you encase it like a biology display, where you have like the main ducks that come through the state with a little write-up on them when it was harvested, and you put like a background. That would be cool. But I'm not big on to just going into a room and like there's a duck on the wall. I mean, it's okay if you guys like it. There's nothing wrong with it. But for me personally,
yeah, I hear you.
And it's a rare. You got to really be in charge of your household to have your wife let you just slap those up all over the place.
You need a big house so you have a whole wing of it to yourself.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. 44 Mag, email me at freelanceduckhunting@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to answer whatever question you have off air. What choke do you use for that Benelli?
I started out with modified, which is the way you buy most of them, but I'm using an improved now because
I think you used a skeet. You don't remember this, but you used skeet choke for a whole year.
It may be. Well, I've only got 2, so it may be.
Have you changed your choke this year? Because you were using a skeet choke for quite a while.
I think it may be skeet.
And skeet choke is like for killing birds from 10 to 25 yards.
Yeah, well, that's the way I want to shoot them.
Yeah.
In
He
fact,
just doesn't even pull the trigger on anything almost outside of 20.
in my old age, the older I get, the more cranky I get about what kind of shots I want.
Yeah.
And I used to shoot them passing. If they passed over my decoys, I shot them. But boy, you know, I'm getting to a place where I want, if I can get a couple of ducks in a day's time with their feet down in my decoys, that's the way I want them.
Yep. And Rad Basson was the one that asked that question. I had also on the discussion videos have a whole video about chokes. I started out the season with an improved cylinder, and I've gone to bringing all my chokes with me. So like I know on the mallard and green wings, I switched from an improved to a full choke that day just because of the shots we were getting.
Yeah,
So
you know, the exception on my range is if I get ducks landing at 30, 35 yards, I'll take them.
yeah.
But if they're going to do that quite a bit, I do need to switch over to the modified choke, which the only day that I wanted my modified choke, I'd left it at home.
Was that day out there? Yeah. So I think that it's really smart to bring your chokes with you and change them as need be. Anymore, I'm starting off with the modified, and then if we're really pulling them in, like tomorrow, I think it's probably going to be a good day for the improved if they do what we think they're going to do.
Yeah.
And switching them mid-hunt. Connor shot his first band yesterday. Nice. Congratulations. Ooh. Oh, it was banded in Alaska. That's cool.
Wow.
That's big day. Big day.
I have a couple of friends that ripped me off 2 days in a row on banded ducks.
Ryder Wingwrath, right, says, who's got the better shooting average this season of the two? Now, my lifetime shooting percentage is better. We'll just preface it. My lifetime shooting percentage is 43. Right now, if you could take out the 5 hunts where we lay out boat hunted, my shooting percentage would be 50%. Well, I've shot really well this year, except for those 5 layout hunts.
I'll tell you what, if you're shooting a single shot, you'd have a lot better shooting percentage.
Yeah.
Because it's those second and third shots. You know, I think when you're out hunting and you're shooting ducks and you think, man, I'm shooting really good today. I've killed everything I shot at. Well, yeah, but it took you 2 shots to kill that one. It took you 3 shots to kill this one. It took you 2 more shots to kill this other one. And your shooting percentage is actually kind of low.
And I think a lot of times guys will think, and I know you commented on this last week, it's like if you shoot at a duck and drop the duck, then that's 100%. If you shoot 3 times at one duck and kill that duck, that's 33%.
33%, yeah.
And so it is very, very difficult to keep your shooting percentage above 50%.
Here's where I get into trouble. This duck comes into my decoys and I shoot and I just wing him a little bit. And so I don't want a wounded bird. So I shoot again and shoot again. And by the time I shoot the 3rd time, the duck is out there about 40 yards.
Yeah.
And now I'm 0 for 3.
The key to a good shooting percentage is not shooting the 3rd shell when you know you're probably not going to hit it.
Right.
That will improve your shooting percentage and put money in your pocket like that.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been working on with Dan. Good old Dan. I see Dan here. He's talking about latex paint again. I should have got him latex paint for his first.
We need to look at the video from last year when Dan and I went down on the river to hunt Canada geese. I was questioning him about his weird looking spray something he had on his waders. Turns out it was foam insulation.
So this is a great segue because I'm going to introduce this right now. Dan and I have a new YouTube channel cooking, and it is called Can Dan Do It? Yeah. And this is going to premiere. I'm hoping the episodes are going to be in July or August. Dan comes up with the craziest ideas in the world. He's going to try to dig a well in his backyard is number one. He's going to try to build a raft and float down the Missouri River several miles.
I just want this known. Dan is going to float the raft. I am not his companion.
This is the perfect channel because Dan loves to do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So Dan's going to go out, do a bunch of work, and try to do all this crazy stuff. I'm going to film it and make fun of him.
Is he going to have to build a fire this time?
There will be an episode.
Without matches.
Season 1 is going to have 5 episodes, and it's going to be a whole new channel. It's going to be totally separate from Freelance, and it's just going to call Can Dan Do It? He's going to come up with crazy ideas, and we're just going to see if he can do it.
And we talked 3.
I can't hardly stop smiling. I'm so excited about
We've talked about 3 episodes. The 4th episode is he's going to dig a tunnel under his house for a shooting range.
His wife mentioned that.
And he's going to have a big billboard out front.
So Dan's wife mentioned, here's how crazy Dan is. We're going off topic. Here's how crazy Dan is.
Sorry, Dan.
Yeah. His wife mentioned that she had that something about him trying to dig under their house to create a gun range. And in my mind, I thought, I bet that's really true. I bet you he really did have an idea of building a gun range under his house.
I think so, yeah.
So I don't know, Dan, was that something that she was just like giving an example of, or is that something that you actually
have you actually started it yet?
Dan was going to, last year, Dan was going to go into his garage, concrete floor, and somehow dig out a jacuzzi and have a jacuzzi dug down, and he was going to use coils and heat the springs. Anyway.
Well, he took a lawnmower engine and made a long tail. It worked real good for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway.
Was that a failure or a success?
That would have been a success.
Oh.
It worked. So anyway, look for that. It's called Can Dan Do It. I will definitely let you guys know when we start filming, and I'll be talking about it all the time, but it's going to be awesome. All right, moving on back to what we're actually supposed to be doing here.
When I was a kid, I tried to parachute with a sheet. Is he going to do something like that?
You know, there's no telling everything.
I knocked the wind out of myself.
We've got all the episodes of season 1 pretty much ready to roll. So after that, it'll just be, we'll see what takes place.
See how tall of a building he can parachute off using.
Well, we don't want to kill Dan, because then the show would be over.
Well, just put a limit on the height.
And I'm just going to say this, Dan, if you die doing this, I'm not going to stop rolling the camera. I'm not. No.
Did you ever wonder why people are in these disasters, being burned to death, or whatever kind of horrible things happen, and somebody's up there with a camera just and not helping? They're just rolling the camera.
Yeah,
I'd like to get a hold of those.
That's what's going to be like. All right, Rad Basson says, "Where did you guys get your layout boats?" I got mine off Craigslist.
Me too.
But his is a Carson.
We bought our first 2 Karsten boats. We had this game manager who was trying to get together a whole bunch of them to get a good price. And so we bought 2 in that deal, but they were 9-footers. So when we went to the longer ones, we just got them on Craigslist.
We are in the process. Dan got a new boat that you haven't even seen on the videos yet, and it's an aquapod. And we're really thinking seriously about switching over to aquapods because they're light, they're big like we need them, and I think they're going to be perfect for us. So they're a little bit pricey.
I've seen aquapods on the internet before, but when we went out west, what's his name that hunted with us out there? Larry. Larry Fry.
Yep.
He had an aquapod as a layout boat, and we kind of liked that. And they're a lot lighter. Man, that boat of mine is killing me.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, this is a good question. Little off topic for what we're talking about, but if you've watched enough of our videos, you know that faith is really important to us.
Yeah.
We've got our middle son's baptism video. If you want to check that, it's a really excellent video. And so we prayed before some of our videos. So Steve wants to know how long we've been saved and what church do we go to. So you want to start, and we don't want to go too long.
Yeah, right. I was brought up in a very conservative evangelical background, and went to a school, a Christian school, but had a crisis of faith in my first year in college, and was agnostic for a while, and I came back to faith, and so and now I'm 72 and as solid as a rock on my belief. I just don't have enough faith to disbelieve.
Yeah. And I'd say the same thing for me. I went through a really rough patch from about 20 to 35 where I was agnostic and then kind of believed just because I was scared of hell, which isn't really the way to believe. And then I really started investigating the factual evidence of the resurrection and just kind of what is the evidence that we can even believe there is a God, and what is the evidence that we could believe that someone could actually be resurrected. And I went through every single doubt and fear that I ever had. And I came to the same assumption, is that when you look at the complexity of how systems work, and just like little things like a mosquito bite and all of the chemicals that goes into that, and how organized it is, and how, I mean, it's set up in a way that can only be designed. Nature cannot, evolution cannot answer what we see at the micro level. It just can't. It's too complex. It just doesn't make sense for me.
Get yourself a drop of pond water and a microscope and a slide and put it on there and see what God has created in 1 tablespoon of water in a pond. It is unbelievably complex, and you don't see a tenth of the complexity. We are not, we were brought up in the church, but our faith is based on a whole lot of reasons. And And so from, I guess, how long have we been Christians? Most of our lives.
Yep. All right, so moving on. I saw Drake say that he posted his video today, but I've been looking. I never got the notification for it. So I didn't realize that, Drake, you had that posted. If that's what you said, I'm going to go look for that. I got a little bit out of whack with some of the questions because sometimes on the way that this works, I've got to look up multiple screens and I'll click the button and I'll lose track of where I was on the questions. So I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best here.
Do we ever hunt just for geese?
We have a couple of times. We have a couple of times, but not very
in January.
Not very often.
When our local area is closed and we find geese on the river or something once in a while.
And that may happen next weekend.
It may, yeah.
Because everything's going to freeze up again. We're not going to have that big boat. So our river spot for geese is probably going to be our best option.
But our goose sets and everything are pretty small. We don't have a big trailer and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Besides, my brother-in-law had 500 snows at one time, shells, and I was too lazy to set them up.
Connor Johnson says, I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel. Any tips? I would say, Connor, come over to Patreon. If you can't find it, email me, freelance@duckhunting@gmail.com, or I'll put a link in the description down. And come join Drake and I over there. And we have weekly Q&As where, you know, I can help you with any of that you want helped with, and even do some promotion. So come on over to Patreon and join us, join the community over there, and we can definitely work on that YouTube channel idea you got. All right. What are some tips? Let's see. Ash shields? I guess that's the name. FDH, what are some tips you have for getting teal in closer during early teal season? Because I always see a lot, but I can't get their attention. You want to take that?
We're talking blue-winged teal mostly. And for years and years and years, we were setting up with mallard decoys, blowing a mallard call. And they will decoy to that, but it's kind of difficult. We noticed that they tend to prefer teal decoys. So we have a couple dozen teal decoys, and we usually mix in a half a dozen mallards too, because there might be mallards around and we just put them in there. But a few years ago, we bought teal calls from Duck Commander, and those teal calls, it's a teal quack. And boy, it's not magic like any other. I mean, all duck calls are not magic. Sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't. But we really have seen an increase in them, in blue-winged teal coming into our decoys using that teal call.
Yeah, and then I did a discussion video on blue-winged teal call where I show clips of blue wings responding to the teal call and just turning and coming in. Yeah. So we used to think that they wouldn't decoy very well.
No,
that's not the case.
Boy, we got pass shoot them because we just can't
teal
decoy
call makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does.
And Duck Commander sells one for like $20. And I don't have a big variety on that call. I use pretty much the same call that I hear. And man, that turns them on a dime.
Now, we're not talking about those whistle calls.
No.
We're talking about the blue-winged teal quack.
Yeah.
And you blow it just like you blow a mallard call, only it sounds a little different.
NT says, do you ever film hunts but never upload? Very, very rarely do I not upload a hunt. Now, I do have 3 or 4 over at Patreon that haven't been put on YouTube that are just for patrons. But very, very rarely do I not upload something. Fumbles did one with a subpar camera earlier in the year, and I could not squeeze a video out of that with you and Wayne. I looked at all that footage. I just couldn't. Okay. I just couldn't squeeze a video out. And
there was nothing there, boy. That was terrible.
And then there's been 2 this year that haven't been uploaded, and I wasn't on either one. Yeah. So almost never do we hunt that I video that I don't post it.
Golden Boy and I did a hunt, and I think Dan was with me. And
yeah, the entire video was them making fun of me.
Yeah, I was having more fun. We had more fun dogging Elliot, and I warned him not to. In the video, not to edit everything out. Well, it turns out he edited everything.
No,
he didn't use a thing.
Well, here's the deal.
I told some stories about his mishaps, and he doesn't agree with my story.
The one story on there that I want now, I will air those. I'm going to do something with those because but they'll probably.
I haven't seen them yet.
They will. I don't mind those stories coming on. That hunt was hardly anything on there, and quite honestly, you guys did a terrible job of filming on that. The only thing salvageable out of that entire hunt was those stories of you making fun of me.
Oh well, that's we.
And I'm going to
sure we're
I
going to
will.
good job with that.
I have no problem with fun being poked at me, and I have no problem being the butt of jokes, even though he completely distorted some of the facts on at least one of those.
I told as I see it.
So there's a situation in which I was out by myself because someone was sleeping in, and the boat got away from me and floated clear across the lake.
Clear across the lake, I'm telling you.
Clear across.
It was like a half a mile.
And the engine was running.
Oh, the whole time.
And there's another story of me, the one I mentioned about falling down in the Kansas River. And anyway, both of those will be aired. But
yeah.
But they did such a terrible job of filming the rest of it that I was either going to have to just release those clips, or
well, the dog and Elliot was all there was. There was no ducks.
Candy went out and retrieved a fish.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the current was about 10 miles an hour, and she goes all the way downriver and it gets this white-looking duck thing, and she's coming all the way back. And I thought, oh man, look at this. She's really got that duck. She came up on the bank and walked through this bush and dropped it. It was a drum, freshly. Yeah.
And I couldn't use that because someone had forgotten to hit record. And then they tried to dry out. Aiden's socks were all wet. So he takes them off and puts them on the fire, and they burn them up. Guess why I can't use that footage?
He put them on a stick.
Tell him why I can't use that footage. Someone didn't hit record.
Well,
I cannot tell you how many times
I turned around and his socks were torches, and they were gone before I could turn on.
But on the video, they finally turn on the record after it's just black ash.
Charred
black ash. So if you guys had gotten the fish retrieved, and if you had gotten the burnt socks, I could have made a video.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when I put up little snippets, like remember when Dan tried to build that mud thing? That only got like 1,000. It's just like no traffic. I would rather take those and put those for people at Patreon than to put them up on YouTube and have no traffic on. So I will use the stories where they're making fun of me. I will.
Yeah, but I tell you, this sock thing was funny. Dan had his gloves all wet.
It would help if you record.
And he put them on a stick. And pretty soon I looked over there, and the flames were just licking at this glove. And I said to Dan, "Hey, Dan, you better get your glove." Whoosh! They
were charred. I couldn't even tell they were soft.
Yeah, well, that's only half the story.
It would have been nice if it had been on video.
So Aiden changed his socks. He had a little drop of water on his socks, and his tootsies were cold.
He's golden.
And he had a golden boy.
The golden boy's precious.
And so he put his socks on a stick, and he says, "Carl, would you make sure that my socks don't burn up?" Well, I was standing with my back to the fire, warming my hands, and
because that's the best way to keep your eye on socks.
Yeah, I turned around,
keeping your back to the fire,
and it was one of the socks was total blaze, and I said, "Hey, look at that, boy! That's pretty funny."
I mean, that's
the other one went on fire too.
So this is how the story went down.
So Aiden picked up and all there was charred.
Aiden says, "Can you keep your eyes on the sock on the fire?" And your reaction is to turn and face the other direction. Yeah, I don't even need to even go say anything after that. That just speaks for itself, right there. All right, and I do want to mention Thomas Family Outdoors is here, and he and I are starting a partnership. He's the one that sent the really beautiful blue and green call, and so I think that we're going to work it out to sell those duck calls. He's 19, and he hand does all his own calls, inserts, and everything. And so I think that his calls, starting 2017 season, you're going to be able to purchase those on the website. They're really nice.
Great.
Maybe I'll have him give you a $2 discount or something. That was supposed to be a joke.
Oh,
you're supposed to laugh.
Oh, he's going to give me a $2 discount.
Yeah.
Listen, I've been telling you, the last time when I was filming and calling, all of a sudden my call started sounding horrible to me. You always say it's too raspy, and all of a sudden it just kicked in on me.
Yeah. Yeah. What camera do you guys use for recording? Panasonic HCV 770. Let's talk about Christianity said. And that would make a good video idea. You're right. And I've been meaning to think about it. Yeah, it seems like I'm back up top. What shells do we prefer? We start off with Bruce Lee. We start off with 4 federal 4s for teal, and as soon as we see mallards, we switch over to 2s.
Yeah, we're shooting 3-inch 1 1/8 ounce now. We used to shoot 1 ounce.
Yep.
With is it about 1,500 feet per second?
1550.
1550.
Yep. Connor wants to know when we're going hunting again tomorrow morning. We've got them
I gotta
scouted.
get to bed.
Here's the thing about tomorrow is that there's not thousands of birds in this spot,
No.
but we've got anywhere between 50 and 250 that have been using this little tiny hole on the river for about a week.
Yeah.
And so we know that we're going to get some shots. The shots we get should be in your face and very easy.
So we'd like to say before we go out and hunt, how many birds do you expect today? So let me ask you, how many birds do you expect?
Well, there's 4 of us.
Total birds.
If we're shooting well,
you can't assume that.
if we're shooting, I would expect that
we celebrate our misses.
Yes, but I would expect tomorrow we're going to shoot between 6 and 15. Is what I think.
Boy, 15 would be a bunch.
Well, the thing is, on the river like this, these birds will sit in there and they'll go out to feed and they'll trickle. Yeah. They'll trickle back in.
Yeah.
And so if we can get on that pattern where they're trickling back in, they've been in the same spot for 7 days,
they've been in the same spot for 7 years.
Yeah, they love this spot. When you get ducks on a river and they've been using a lot, they become stupid. I mean, you can almost stand out there and just shoot them coming in because they're comfortable with it. They haven't had any pressure. They have a really short memory. These late season ducks, if you give them a couple weeks to not be shot at, they don't keep that same level of whatever word I'm looking for. But they're going to be dumb tomorrow.
Sometimes those mallards are so wary you can't get them within 200 yards. And other times you could stand out there and wave a white flag and they would come in.
Yeah, it all depends.
That doesn't happen to me very often.
So it's Danny Boy, the 2 of us, and we're taking Nevin in the morning. Right. So there'll be 4 of us. I fully expect to shoot between 6 and 15. If I was going to guess, I'd say I would put the number at 8. I always like to do over and unders. I'd say the over and under would be 8.
So tomorrow, sometimes when we're on the river, we put one guy in the layout blind and we keep rotating people in because it's harder to hunt the more people you have.
Yep.
But tomorrow we're hoping that we can hide in the woods, in which case we'll have 1 cameraman and 3 shooters.
Yeah, that'd be a change. Yeah. Very nice. And so, all right, P. Outsmarter, how many bands do you have? He's got 1 band. I've got 2.
The first mallard drake I shot when I became a serious duck hunter, the very first was banded.
Yep. Ash Shield's 15. The Outlander doesn't shoot 3.5-inch shells. No, it doesn't. Just 3-inch, and that's all I need. I don't have a desire to shoot anything more than that.
Benelli shoots 3.5, but I don't.
We like them. Ducks in tight. I don't have any desire or need for a 3.5.
I don't need 3.5.
And I don't have any desire for any choke that says high flyer. These high flyer chokes, I don't want a high flyer choke. I don't want to shoot ducks at 60 yards. A lot of these chokes are called like high flyers. And
is that right?
Yeah. It's like,
was that a full choke or something?
I guess. Have at it, but give me a choke that says low flyers, feet down over my spinner.
I love to shoot.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
Right, land in my decoys.
If I shoot a passing shot like that, it's not even. I mean, the fun meter is up here for pedaling, back pedaling with feet down, and the fun meter for 50, 60 yard, 40, 50 yard shots to me is down here.
Okay, so let me admit something. That's the way I want to shoot them, and I am really conservative and cranky. You just ask anybody who hunts with me. If I shoot 5 times, everybody else is shooting 10 times in a day. But we all want to shoot them right over the decoys, right? But if they're not giving us that, then we'll stretch our limits a little bit.
It's situational to the day, and that's why it's important to bring your different chokes. Because if we've got to stretch out, I'm not going to shoot ducks over 40 yards because I can't. Honestly, I can't hit them that far. No. I don't care what choke I've got in. I'm not good enough to hit them.
Nor do I want to. It's not a.
But I'll go 40 with a full choke if I have to.
Yeah, if I can get them landing at 40 with full choke, I'll shoot them.
Yeah. Yep. All right. This thing is having issues. Or maybe we're at the bottom. Okay. So it looks like we've hit if I missed your question, go ahead and post it real quick because I'm at the bottom here and I think I've hit as many questions as I can. So it's 8:04. We could probably wrap it up, but if there's a couple more questions, you can pop it up real quick and we'll try to address it. I did see someone asking Drake Valley Outdoors to do a video about his camera setup. And Drake, if you want to do another live stream like this, certainly we can do that, or you could host it on your channel and I could watch it, whatever. But if you want to do that here, that's something about how you do your camera setup that I want more information on. One thing I don't understand about the camera setups is like the battery life. It's like, do you just keep it continually running? Because it's like these guys with the GoPros, they're getting all these kill shots. So I'm assuming from where it looks like they're just letting the camera run.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that works.
I don't know how many batteries they have.
Yeah.
Or how long it takes them to review all their footage.
Yeah. I'm really chintzy about when I hit the record button because I don't want to, it takes me 4 to 7 hours to make a video, depending on how much footage is there. I don't want to spend hours and hours and hours and hours just going through footage. So when I get too much footage, Elliot
is our 100% editor. There's a question there. Have we killed any neck bands? The answer is no.
Yep. Red Roof Retriever keeps talking about sports shows, expos after the season. I would have no idea how to get even started on that. At this point, I just don't feel like, as far as expos and short sports shows, I feel like it's too early for us to get into that.
We're not selling anything really.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now we need to build up our inventory of what we're trying to sell, and what we're trying to do. But I just feel like
selling hats and shirts.
I just feel like we're way too early in the game to go down that path, and I don't know if we ever will or not. We're just kind of letting it unfold as it unfolds. I have got crazy high hopes for Can-Dan Do It. I'll tell you that.
What's that?
I have crazy
Can-Dan.
expectations and high hopes for Can-Dan Do It.
Oh yeah.
I think that is going to be. I know it's going to make me laugh because everything Dan does is funny to me.
Yeah.
And we've had the question over again. It's like, is Dan hyping it up for the camera? He is not. Dan would act the exact way Dan acts now is how Dan would act if there was no camera there.
Dan likes the camera, but he's not. That's not an.
There's
act.
no.
That's
No,
not an
that's
act.
not an act.
He just thinks different than we do.
Yeah, and we love it. Dan.
Yeah.
Dan is the kind of guy that when you're around, everyone around Dan wants to be around Dan. Right.
But Dan has another gear too. I mean, like his interpersonal, clinical personality.
Mm-hmm.
Like you put Dan in a group of kids, and he's fantastic.
He's like the Pied Piper.
Yeah. And it's a different personality.
It is. And you put him in a church small group, and he's even a little bit different than that. He's kind of an antagonist in a small group, not in a bad way, but kind of devil's advocate all the time. But Dan,
I can be that way too. One time I had a Bible study leader ask me to knock it off,
and that's his Kentucky Carl,
I had too many questions.
Yeah. But Dan is a addiction counselor, and I bet you he is fantastic at that job.
Yeah,
I bet he is. So, NT, Dan and I are going to start the channel, and I'm going to edit, and Dan's just going to be Dan, and that's going to work out best for everybody. Anyway, well, I think that's all. We're at about an hour and 10 minutes.
What made me start this channel?
What made me start this channel?
Yeah, Retro Retriever.
Okay. All right. Well, this is the last question I'm going to do, and then we'll sign it off. Red Roof Retriever, what made you start the channel? I started recording videos just because I wanted to record memories, and I had messed around with doing a little bit. I had been editing video and stuff just for fun on Facebook and that kind of stuff with my son and whatnot. So I just decided to take a camera to record what we were doing, and so I put it on YouTube. And I remember when I first started getting views, my goal was just to have 100 subscribers and to maybe get one paycheck from YouTube, which I don't know, guys, if you realize this, but in order to make any kind of real money on YouTube, you have to have millions of views. But, and so it just kind of snowballed where people started watching it.
Well, when you first put it on, you had no idea anybody would watch it but you and me.
Yeah, it was really just, I thought it would be family sharing and stuff. And then about episode 5 or 6 last year, I realized people were starting to watch it.
The personal narration that you did, you were just documenting what we were doing for us.
For us, yeah. And so we weren't even trying to get that first hunt. The only reason we got into kill shots is you shot your limit first, and then you got a couple.
That's true.
But that was
we weren't even running the camera.
No, we had no intention even trying to get kill shots. It was just recording memories. But then I realized after this season that we needed at least a few kill shots in each episode just to kind of spice them up, which I think we've done better at.
We have done better, but we're not shooting very many ducks. So we don't shoot very many ducks.
Yeah.
What kills us is with teal and with these ducks that don't circle and give you any warning whatsoever.
Yeah.
They just right in the decoys, and then your camera's not on.
Absolutely. So anyway, I think we're going to do this next Thursday. I don't know. I haven't had Golden Boy here yet. I'm not even sure if he's even ready for it. It takes a little bit of getting used to talking in front of the camera and that kind of thing. And so I don't know if he's to the point of even wanting to do that yet. I know I want to get Drake on there and have another one with him. GT Outdoors actually just became a member, and so he's going to do some of the live stream with me at some point. So look again for next Thursday at 7 o'clock. If there's again Instagram, Freelance Duck Hunting, Facebook, Twitter, and if some Twitter followers actually start popping up, then I'll start posting some things. So.
Okay, so you need to wish us luck for tomorrow morning. I drove by that spot this afternoon, and there was about 30 ducks sitting in there, which isn't a whole lot to go on, but it's a favorite spot. So we're just gonna tune in a couple of days. It'll be up. You'll find out if we.
And there's been upwards of 200 ducks in there almost every single morning. So anyway,
and it's a spot you just don't know what you're
never
gonna
know.
get.
Never know. And Thomas wants to be on live stream. You will, Thomas. All right. So thanks a lot, and happy hunting with you guys, and be safe.